And we have one of the very esteemed people with us, Jaspreet, who's a pass out of FMS, uh, has been associated with us for a long time now, and she will guide us through the most interesting period, which starts from now on, which is the GDPI process, and another 15 days to 1 month, maximum 1 month, rather less than that in all the cases. We will start having our GD and PI process, and happens to be the most challenging as well as interesting. Challenges being a lot of interest into the kind of preparation that we've been through. So welcome, Jaspreet. It's honor to have you live for our students. And though Jaspreet takes up from here, but I'll take 7 minutes to give you what we've understood over our last 15, 20 years of my experience on how to handle the GDPI process. Right. The first thing, guys, it's a very competitive kind of a atmosphere that you now enter into. Not that you've not been into a competitive atmosphere before this, you have been. But what now is that your competition is sitting right next in front of you. The best thing about GDPI is that the people who are getting the similar percentile, similar scores in the examinations are now facing each other. So what do I mean by this? That when we were taking when we were writing our examinations, when we were taking CAT, or for that matter any other examination, what we had was that we were competing with people or students who were below and above our intellect level. So we had students who were below us, we had students above us, better. And now, however, what we enter, what makes it more interesting as well as challenging, is that people with a similar score are now are sitting with us and being a part of that group discussion or case study. And if someone's stepping out of the room after a particular personal interview process, we have a similar student entering after that. So it becomes so competitive. And that's where the interesting part lies, and that's where we at Hitbullseye help our students gauge and maneuver through this process. But a couple of things which all of you need to remember is that you need to be confident. You need to go and reach 15 minutes. I would rather say, and then in my concluding remarks I'll tell you why did I say this as well. Though I'm sure all my friends here and all the students and my friends here know that why am I saying this, is that reach 15 minutes, 20 minutes before your scheduled time. You will meet all the students. It will generally be a group of 10, 15 people, 10, 15 students. Go meet them, discuss it out, appreciate them on what they have accomplished. Why am I saying this? Suddenly, it's a competitive environment, and why is Deepak now suddenly saying that you should be doing it? Now understand, most often than not, the GD will happen before the personal interview. And once you're there in front of the panel, you need to have your friendships before you start a particular topic or a case study on discussing a case study amongst 10, 15 of you. How does that help? So let's take Deepak, went there 15 minutes before. I met everyone, understood the backgrounds of everyone, wished them all the best. Everyone at that point is insecure and is looking for friends. So what did I as Deepak ensured? I as Deepak ensured that I am friends with everyone. When I'm trying to intervene or put my point across in the group discussion, they will, they will acknowledge and accept me more than a person who was quiet, who did not talk to them over the last 15 minutes or 20 minutes before the whole process started. I don't become friendly, but yes, I take steps to make them comfortable with me. I becoming comfortable with them and understanding and making that environment a little relaxed environment. The moment that happens, I've started marketing myself as a person who is going to achieve success in a group discussion. So first big thing is, a big no-no is, don't go there, be quiet, and suddenly, try to pounce upon everyone in a group discussion. No, you will not be able to be successful. The panelists are going to be, will be able to understand that, he's trying to boss around. Rather try and be a leader. The second thing is, when we are discussing before the group discussion stage, or the moment we enter, we are understanding the strengths and weaknesses of each individual. We will be more comfortable. And the best example which I do is, remember, all great batsmen, and I take examples of cricket, all great batsmen go stand on the pitch and observe what they are going to face. It makes them comfortable. Obviously, there will be something which is new at every moment in that stage. But once you are comfortable, you are much more prepared to face what is going to happen. And the moment I have been the one who's been, who's kept my calm, and I've ended up discussing with different people. Some will be from Chandigarh, they'll be from the same city. Some will have the same background as what you had. Some would have, faced similar problems what you faced in your test. So we have to keep that in mind and not approach the whole thing as if, we're going to fight with each other. Now, once inside the group discussion, you are strategically positioned, or rather you have a strategic advantage to speak and put your points across, and that turns out to be advantageous for you. This is what I've always observed. If you feel, you can try out in the mock group discussions and personal interviews, you can try out both the things. If you've been discussing and talking little, not much, it helps you gain confidence and makes you accept that environment. So that, to my mind, is most important. We welcome Jaspreet. As we go along, I'll request, please keep asking questions, and we'll be more than happy to answer them. We have approximately an hour, and Jaspreet, I'm sure, is going to touch on everything. For if something gets missed out, we'll cover it towards the end. But first 15 minutes now, I hand it over to Jaspreet, and I welcome her. She's been successful in handling such situations. That's why she was a part of FMS, and I'm sure she'll be able to guide you to this through the preparation of this most important stage, the GDPI process. Welcome, Jaspreet. Welcome, all students. It's great to have you here. Over to Jaspreet.
Thank you so much, sir. It was great. And thank you to Bullseye as well. It's great being here today. Thank you for having me here. And it's amazing to be connecting with you all. I know you all are attending this on a Sunday evening, and I really do hope that this session is worth all your time that you're putting in here. And I'll just briefly start with an introduction of myself. Myself, Jaspreet. I hail from Ludhiana, Punjab. I did my graduation from the city itself. I did my bachelor's in commerce with a specialization in accounting, since I always had that interest in finance. Then while I was pursuing my graduation, alongside I started preparing for entrance examinations for MBA. I appeared for CAT, NMAT, and MAT. MAT, I was 100 percentile there. CAT, I could score a decent score there as well. And then further on, I could get the conversions of few, but the lady luck did smile on me, I'll say, and could secure admissions to number of different B-schools. IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Calcutta, and FMS Delhi were the top 3 choices that I had. So then right after graduation, I chose to pursue my MBA from FMS Delhi. That's the campus that I chose for myself. And then since I told I had always had that interest in finance, I did a master's in finance along with a minors in marketing as well. While I was pursuing my MBA, I did an internship with General Electric and again got a pre-placement offer from there. And now I am working full-time with the organization for last 18 odd months. In finance, I've worked in different subdomains, FP&A, supply chain finance, OTR finance, etc. So that is my journey in very brief. As I just mentioned that today the idea is to touch upon as some GD different formats that you will have for MBA in an MBA admission criteria, GD, it could be a personal interviews, extempore maybe, or VAT, let's say. In FMS, for example, you have to submit an SOP that also has a certain weightage in the admission criteria. So there could be different formats. Yes, we'll touch upon each one of them and go into details. As I just said, if you guys have any questions, since the idea is to break those myths, if you have any questions, any queries, I'd love to be able to answer those basis my experience, basis my learning. Since, for example, like 4 odd years back, I was on the other side of the table. I was just one of you listening to these kind of sessions and then trying to take something from there. So probably I can relate more to you all and will be able to help you out there. So since I have 10 odd minutes more, I'll start with GDs and PIs. I very briefly will touch upon those, and then we can go into detail if bases your interest and your queries therein. So for group discussions, I believe the GDs are a very crucial or important step, and not just now, even after you'll secure your MBA admissions. While you every company that comes to the campuses, even they need to they generally conduct those GDs, and that's why they hold a lot of significance. Recently, for example, in G also we conducted a recruitment drive. I was part of the panel myself and conducted GDs for different campuses. So some tips, tricks, observations, learnings that I have is first one, as I just mentioned, that you can go prior to sometime prior to actual time that you're given. You talk to the people there. In fact, when I went for my GD, some of the people that I met there, I'm still in touch with those people. Even if that we went into different campuses, but I'm still in touch with them. And after that, once the GD start, the format goes like you are given 30, 40 seconds, 1 minute or so. Once the topic is announced, then another 10 to 15 minutes to bring forth your points. And then the conclusion could be either one of the person concluding, or the interviewer can ask everybody to conclude, to bring their points for 10, 20 seconds. So yes, as you all must have heard already, the first person to, if you happen to be the first person to start off that discussion, to bring that first point, that's a brownie point indeed, because the interviewer then happens to, the entire focus is on you. The interviewer knows your name and the point. But again, there lies a risk as well. If the point that you have made is vague, is not sound, is not that solid, it can backfire big time, because you're starting off a discussion and the point that you have made isn't that strong. Then once you are into the discussion, prior to, so some of the tips there may be either, if it's an abstract topic, that's altogether different ball game. For that you need to have that's a different ball game. But if it's, let's say, a technical topic or something around a hot topic that's going around, so then either, if you know the subject, you can throw in some facts. Those always helps. Again, we'll come to that, as in how you can prepare for all of it, hot topics and knowing the facts, or reading, or what you can do and how you can do. But basically, bring in those facts. Don't try and just piggyback on somebody else's points. That gets notices very easily. Bring in your fresh perspective of your fresh thoughts, have your own opinions. If, for example, there could be a topic that you don't know much facts about, or but still, at least you can take up a side, like favor or against, and then bring your thought on your perspective on that. Being confident, those soft skills on how you present yourself always matters a lot. And then the idea there in a GD should be, it should appear to the interviewer that you're genuinely interested in that discussion. You genuinely want to learn something out of it in that discussion. And yes, you are, when others are bringing their points, you're listening to them, just not cutting them, both ways. Neither you are just sitting there and piggybacking on others' points. Now you're being too aggressive and just cutting everybody and trying to bring forth your point. Some very basic things. We can go into details these later. And then similarly in an interview that can range very from different, that could be a technical interview, that could be around HR questions, that could be around your interests or hobbies maybe, or something current affairs or hot topic. Basically these 3 to 4 types of questions that you can expect. We can go into one by one into all of those. But a lot of what we are saying, probably you must have heard from one or the other instructors or your coaches, your mentors as well. Mostly, will the idea is if you have any questions, queries, or something specific that you would want us to touch upon today, we can do that. And rest, as Deepak sir would guide us, we can take the session from here towards that direction on how we want to touch base on in each of these formats.
Yes, great. Thanks, Jaspreet. And definitely, I'm sure they have a lot of questions. However, the first question, I rather have a couple of questions. Were you nervous when you were preparing? When you were at this stage, that's the first point, that's the starting point. You also had, I also had, if I mentioned ever, I am a pass out of UBS Chandigarh. Though, now 15, 20 years into the corporate career, were you nervous during this time? Most of our students are. Yes.
No, I definitely was, and that's very obvious. For example, when I was to go for my IIM interview, I was very nervous because, as I said, I hail from Ludhiana, not that big a city, and then you go there and see people from different walks of life with such rich educational backgrounds and great people. So it's very and beat any campus that you'll go, once you'll see people sitting around there, it's very obvious you'll feel nervous. And but the key there is to somehow have that confidence in you, that if I have come till here, if I could get this call, if I'm being called for this interview, there's something in me as well, that I could secure myself a place amongst all these students. So never lose that confidence, I'll say, because if you lose, then the interviews that the interviewers, they are very smart folks, they're very smart people. They'll just in a look at your face, they'll get to know that if you aren't confident about yourself, you can't pitch yourself to any person. If I am doubtful of my abilities, and maybe I'll convert this, maybe I'm not much, I am not that prepared. If you aren't confident, you can't make a good pitch to someone else, be it securing an interview, be it getting a job, be it anything in life. So have that confidence in you, maybe.
So, yep. Summarizing this, two takeaways from what Jaspreet has said. First is break that ice before you get into a group discussion. How will you have confidence once you've interacted with all the people, all the students there? Sorry, I said people, all the students there, all the aspirants to get into that B school. Give that 5 minutes to interact, make everyone comfortable about you, become comfortable with them. It's like, it's as simple as that. If I say in a game of cricket, if I faced a particular fast bowler or a particular spin bowler before I land up in that match, I am more confident. And the second takeaway which Jaspreet just said was, is that, don't try to fool the panel, right? Hang on. You are 21, 22, 23 years old, 24, 25 maximum. They have the number of years which you spend on this mother earth. They have that kind of experience. The panel which is evaluating you. What we can do is, we can only, put forward put our best foot forward and take it forward from there. So the first, after asking the first question, then, Jaspreet, you also said that there could be abstract topics, there could be technical topics, there could be hot topics. So how should one prepare for them, right? Then we come to the softer. We'll obviously touch both the hard and soft aspects of a group discussion. So we'll come to the softer part later. But how do we address that? How did you prepare for it?
Okay, so as I mentioned, that be it GD topics or be it interview questions, they, for example, in an interview, either it could be technical. If it's technical, it's basically from your educational background, your academic background per se, or it could be something from if current affairs or a hot topic. So the key here is, let's say if have it as in be attentive to the things that's basic as that, not nothing rocket science. Be attentive of what's happening around you. If you are, for example, I'm not asking you to go just right after this go get a subscription of the Hindu maybe and just read it every day like anything, but basic or the bare minimum, be know what's happening around. For example, the hot topics that are going, let's say these days what it's COVID, then it's the for someone from finance background, or that it could be banking reforms, that's there, the divestment that government is planning. I'm just thinking out loud, it could be crypto maybe, it could be something around that volatility that we saw in the stock markets these days, anything. So if you are, for example, medium could be anything, you're reading newspapers, you have some subscription in your cell phone, we keep scrolling Instagram, maybe we can just scroll through those newspapers as well. So on our phone in a digital mode, maybe if not that paper thing suits you, it could be you're watching certain channels and you're basically are taking info from there. So the medium could be different and it should be the one that suits you the more. For example, I'm on my phone a lot of time, so I generally have those subscriptions in my phone itself. If not the entire thing, you read, if you're reading into the headlines, or at least you would know what's happening around. The topic wouldn't come as a surprise to you once it's announced in a GD or you were being asked in an interview. So, and also on the technique, and it's not always that there'll be a current affair or a hot topic. It could be something major from the past itself. For example, in one of my interviews, we had a 25-minute discussion on the 2008 crisis. IIMA interview, 25 minutes discussion purely on 2008 crisis, and that was my interview. Something about myself, and then that 25-minute thing. Now, since I was aware at least of those crises, I something or the other I had, so I could talk on it. So at least you should be able to talk something to have your thoughts. And then on the HR questions, so HR questions could be something, tell us something about yourself. What are your top three strengths, weaknesses? Tell us of a situation when you exhibited those leadership qualities, or maybe tell us of a situation this, tell of a situation. So it could be situational. For that, the key is you just sit, you just think of all the situations you have been, be it in your campus, if you have worked somewhere, and then just try to have those stories basically, because your answer should be interesting enough to hold that attention of the interviewer. They also are sitting there since morning interviewing so many candidates that after some time it kind of gets boring for them also. You should be the kind of person that when you speak, when you talk about your stories, you should be able to hold that attention of that other person. That person should be interested enough to listen to you. So those stories, those situations and stories for those HR questions. And tell me something about yourself. That's a very basic question that generally is there in all of the PIs. So for that, the key is not just to read your resume out there. The other person already has it. So again, for example, in my case, how I used to start was I have this interest in poetry. So I used to start off with a couplet maybe. And then I hail from Ludhiana. I used to talk about the city maybe, and then about my education, my interest. And then that is the best question I would say. Tell me something about yourself, because that's very open ended. You can talk of anything. And then you can just throw in those keywords for the interviewer to pick in. And then you are the one who can give a direction to your interview after that. If that interviewer happens to pick up those certain keywords and ask you more on those lines. So that's how you can take up that tell me about yourself question. And then on the hot topics, I already mentioned that you can just be aware, read something so that that doesn't come as a surprise to you when asked. What else? HR question, the situations, just try and have those. So you are not, as in when you are asked, it shouldn't sound like you have rehearsed at all, but you have to go through those at least once or twice before you're answering to the other person. That's there. And what else beside that? Though that's basically around these, I guess.
So if I can, Jaspreet, if I can put, and then I have more questions for you here. So if I can put it across, in a formal way and put in these points for a student, I think a student should start a register. You said abstract, technical, and hot topics. Uh, list down 10, 15 abstract topics. List down those 20, 25 technical topics. List down those 20, 25, rather, on the top of the page is what I mean. Write down those 20, 25 hot topics, and whatever information you can gather about those topics, fill half a page of a register or maybe 1 page of a register on it. And as you go, keep studying, reading newspapers, reading different stuff, reading from your mobile, as she said, keep adding to that register page. And how does that help? Is that once let's take, you've written half a page on the COVID, though I'm sure you'll be able to write more, but just taking an example, half a page you've written, then the Omicron development is happening. You keep on writing. You have facts and figures ready with you. And when you start sharing them in a group discussion, you will be at an advantageous position, right? You will be tactically so well placed that everyone is going to listen to you and everyone is going to give you that air, not find you superfluous, give you that air time to discuss about what you've been talking about. Another thing which came across what Jaspreet told us with her experience is that, you remember she said that think and don't go against the topic, right? Don't go against is what I mean. Don't just completely take a reverse turn. Whenever you're writing down these, whenever a group discussion topic starts, a smart person will always think about pros and cons. A weak person will always first form an opinion that this is right and this is wrong. Hang on. If it was something was very clear to be right or wrong, it would not be a group discussion topic. 90% of the topics are going to be something which has both pros and cons. And I'm repeating, a smart person will know both the pros and cons. The third thing which came out from what she said was that, in a group discussion, unlike an interview, in an interview, if you talk about something and they find it superfluous, they will try to deep dive into it and try to know about what a particular opinion that you're forming. In a group discussion, it's a discussion which is happening, right? So when I used to, and I'm sure Jaspreet would second that, when I used to always take a person was speaking a lot, I always used to take it by saying, I agree to what you said. And the moment I used to say, I agree to what you said, this person used to look at me. And then I used to say, but, and I used to start my own point. So how does that help? Is that you got that attention of that person, because even when he is speaking, anyone who's speaking is a little nervous, is insecure. The moment you say, I agree, but, or I agree and, so all these points will help you, understand it. Then she talked about the 2008 crisis. So if, we need to, one, very clearly understand she has an accounts background. 2008 was a financial crisis. If you come from a particular educational background, have an understanding of what is happening with your study, what you're studying. If you're not aware on what is happening in the market, then it's like we're playing with fire. I'm not saying you cannot clear, but then we are playing with fire, no whatever. Have an understanding of your favorite topics, favorite subjects. If you're offered that question, very good. If not, they can ask you anything. But on your favorite subject, you cannot go wrong. So if it can be any topic, but then you cannot go wrong, right? So this is what she talked about. Then she also talked about resume, right? Remember, guys, FMS asks for or not FMS, we're talking in general, but they get all those things filled and they already have that information. The better the B school, they've done their groundwork. Before you are entering on that day, those sheets, your resumes have been given to the panel and they have done their groundwork. They have those questions ready for you. So, and the better the B school, they have a better groundwork, right? In a very simple way, a good student, he has a better, he will do a better ground, he'll do more, study more before appearing. So the same way for a B school. So one more question now, I have, after summarizing what you said, should, I've seen these questions, should one write about weaknesses, talk about weaknesses, Jaspreet, is my question. You talked about strength and weaknesses. Should one talk about weaknesses? Then I have something obviously to add to what you say, but should one talk about weaknesses? Would they reject me if I talk about weaknesses? Yeah.
No, I think it's as equally important to be aware of your weaknesses as it is to know about your strengths. Because otherwise, for example, if somebody asks you what are your top 3 weaknesses, you say, I don't have any weakness per se, then you're being just that is not something you can answer. Or else you say something random, just making up for it, that wouldn't go good, because that shows that you haven't as in you might know of 10, 11, 12, 10, 20 things that's happening around, but you aren't aware of yourself in the first place, that you know what are your weaknesses, and then along with that you have an action plan for them. So how you can better tackle those kind of questions is you think and you write down, these are my 3 or 5 weaknesses, and then you have an instance maybe to back up. For example, in this instance, in this situation, I did this and then I realized, oh, I could have done better. So that is something where I didn't perform that good, and that's one of my weakness. And then as an action plan, as in how I am better tackling that. So you can then have it sort of a story. This is my weakness. This is an instance or situation from where it gets highlighted. And now going further, again, past, present, future, this is what I'm doing in the present to work on that. And in the future, this is how I think that would help me. But yes, being aware is very important there.
Fantastic. So, I'll give an example here, and you'll be able to correlate what Jaspreet said. Every batsman has a weakness. Every batsman has a strength. You get out most of the time if you play on the balls you should not be playing. Ganguly, a classic example, could not face a short pitch ball. Right? Could face a short pitch ball, but used to end up getting out. A fantastic batsman got ruined because he wanted to play on those shorter balls. So what is now? Let's say when we are selecting a team, the batsmen know what they are good at and what they are bad at. And if what they're bad at, they can avoid, right? That's exactly what she's talking about. That if you go out and say, I don't have a weakness, what she just said, I don't have a weakness, that's impossible. You're human at the end of the day. But you always have a plan on how do you tackle your weaknesses, that you duck under those balls, that you don't play those balls. I have such a good off drive that I can score on those off drives, right? I can off drive the ball. That's what is strengths and weaknesses for you. Everyone has weaknesses. You need to understand. In a very good B school, they'll dodge those questions the way a bowler does to a batsman. That he will keep bowling full till you understand that fully ball aane wali hai, and then suddenly a short ball comes. And they'll put you into that situation to understand, are you able to tackle your weakness? So 2 things to summarize what I just said: know your weaknesses, know your strengths. Weakness, if it's a very good B school for which you've gone for a GDPI and a personal interview round, remember in the interview, they'll try to also see without you realizing कि उस weakness को आप कैसे handle कर रहे हो. As simple as that. Okay, so we started having questions also, but before that,
Yes.
sorry, I need some more time because we had questions which we taken over on the internet. how do you think, what should be the ideal answer to tell me something about yourself?
So as I was talking briefly on this one, so I think that's if you're asked, tell me something about yourself. That's an open-ended question. You can take it to any direction you would want. First, as I just mentioned, don't make it seem like you have rehearsed it. Second, don't just repeat everything that's already written in your resume, or otherwise it would seem like you're just reading through it, that I did this from there, my education is this, then this is my experience, these are my interests, hobbies, blah, 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 etc. Otherwise, it'll be just 10 sentences that are already mentioned in your resume. Try and make it seem like a story. Try and grab that attention of that interviewer. And then, for example, I talked of myself. I used to, since I had this interest in poetry, I used to start off with a couplet maybe, and then I hail from Ludhiana, so I used to talk something on that Ludhiana and the hosiery industry and something of that. And there have been instances that they picked that keyword, and we have had discussions on that as well. So around my city and about myself, you're basically, the idea here is you're pitching yourself, you're selling yourself, you're telling the kind of person that you are to the interviewer. Yes, that needs to have those facts as well, your education, your experience, and your hobbies, interest, but make it seem like a story. Again, here, before going for those interviews, just write down that answer and then keep making changes to it, different versions of it. But you are not to tell the other person that you have done so much of effort and you have rehearsed it like 10, 20 times before telling the same answer to the other person. And then, for example, basically interest and hobbies. If you are keen, music, dancing, it could be anything, reading maybe, and that to specific fiction, let's say for some, it could be anything. And those, in these kind of questions, the interviewers, they are very keen to pick on those and then have discussions. But yes, if you are talking of something, let's say if I say that I'm interested in this particular genre of music, or if I'm interested in this particular dance form, or I read fiction a lot, then you better have a very good know-how and understanding of that particular topic. Just assume that the other person that you are telling that thing is a master of that particular field. You should, because or else it'll backfire. As in, I'm saying that I am so interested in this particular genre of music, I've been listening, and then I'm not even aware of the artists involved or the specifics there. As in, have that good know-how and understanding of the topic as well, on the educational background, as we were just discussing. So in the interviews, if for example, if I have a finance background, I should be knowing the that crisis maybe, or current affairs maybe, also the things that I've learned in my graduation. I have seen, actually these have been the questions that were asked to me as well. I was asked in one of the interviews that, okay, the entire interview was, you have done graduation with a specialization in accounting, that's great, tell us 5 things that you want us to ask you questions on. For example, it could be around US GAAP, IFRS. I'm just giving examples. I was to give them 5 topics. For example, one is, let's say, GAAP, that's IGAP, IFRS, and those principles. Another is, let's say, this particular thing. They would ask me questions, and they, again, as Sir just mentioned, those people have been interviewing since so many years. They have so rich backgrounds, and they know about anything and everything that you will mention to them. So, in fact, one of the questions in some of the interviews were, what are the subjects that you have read in graduate? And I've seen people were not aware of that as well. If someone asks you, Ashak, tell me, let's say, 6 subjects that you had read in your graduation. Trust me, it happens at that moment. You're so nervous, you forget the subjects that you have read in your graduation. So do have a strong hold of your background, finance, or let's say any of those fields. Second, do a good, let's say, if not already, whatever interest or hobby that you have a good understanding, a strong know-how of that as well. And then make it, third was, your answer should be more of a story and not a rehearsed version of 10 to 15 statements put together. Fourth, throw in those keywords that interviewer could pick in, and then you could lead the interview to that particular direction. Fifth, as for example, I said, I used to start from a couplet. specific to me. If you know your start or beginning should be interesting enough, and the sixth is you should be confident enough when you are, because it's your story that you're telling the other person. Make it seem like an interesting one. So I think this is what I can think on the top of my head.
So, what I could gather was, Jaspreet, that if this question is asked, tell me something about yourself. It's a blessing in disguise. Take it as a
Yes,
blessing.
indeed.
Yes, that he has given the baton in your hand and is asking you to guide him. Fantastic. He's given that. He really wants you to guide you through the interview. Then, instead, the way she said, instead of having a rehearsed version, it should not seem like a rehearsed version. Have a flow chart. What is a flow chart? Interview, right on the top of the page of the register, write interview. If he's asking me this, if he's asking me this, if he's asking me this, XYZ, this is how I'm starting. These are the keywords that I'm throwing. So next, so you'll have all those possibilities, and you'll have to sit down for a couple of nights on knowing yourself better. Then once he's given that baton in your hand, you tell with, as she said, speak out those keywords where you want questions to be asked. If they're directly asking you that, tell the 5 topics. Fantastic. If they're not directly asking you, you should have those keywords thrown in to make it interesting, that he wants, hey, hang on, I want to know more about this in this girl. She's talking highly about what she knows, right? And you, bang on, you have got the whole thing in your hand. So register, flowchart, English, it should not be that you've mugged it up. Never do it. Never do it. Now these keywords should come in the starting of the sentence, in the starting of the paragraph, in the middle of the paragraph, and in the end of the paragraph. These could be same keywords, or they could be different keywords depending on what all strengths, how good are you in your academics, how good are you in your hobbies, need to come. Once you've done that, fantastic, you're on the right path. Okay, so now, Jaspreet, another question which comes in is a very important question is, I've not been good at academics. How do I cover it up? This in the paper, I could just, the way we write papers, we could write the same sentences again and fill up those sheets and everyone's done it. Okay. To get those extra marks, to get those good marks. But now what do I do? I've not been that good in academics. How do I hide it? How do I manage it? What do I do? Yeah.
So what happens is some of the campuses, they do have a separate criteria or a percentage weightage that they've allotted to those academics. So let's say if a certain campus, now since you've already, all of you have appeared for your CAT examination, now it's just the interview calls that you are waiting for. So if let's say campus A has a certain percentage weightage and they have called you have a call from that campus, that means that at least you have filled up that minimum eligibility criteria of that campus, first thing. So had those scores or academics not been good enough to even meet that minimum eligibility criteria, you would not have been called for that interview in the first place. So again, at least the bare minimum, you have that. Now in the interview, if you feel like that, probably they might ask me that why it's not a 888 or 999, and why is it like a 5.6 GPA in 10th, 12th, or whatever. If there's a genuine reason, for example, some people, what they have is they scored very well, let's say in 10th, in 12th, but not in graduation, or vice versa. In one of the years or in one of those buckets, if you have a genuine reason, definitely you can talk more on those, that why I was not able to focus in that particular year or in those particular years. If it's consistently not an average, let's say a 666 or not a 888 per se, so then you can, that's fair. You can't do something, or you can't go back in time and change those. That's a fact. But how you, and not just to defend that, but how you accept that okay, that's a 666, because I've not been, because my interest, let's say, is not more on those lines, that reading what's there in the what's there in our syllabus or those subjects. I'm more that kind of person, but I have awareness of what's happening around, for example, and that you can show when they have asked, when you have those discussions around the hot topics or those current affairs. And that I'm more of that kind of person, that I don't just stick to that. I couldn't do very well there. I accept that. Acceptance is also something that is taken very in a very positive manner by the interviewers. But I am more a different kind of person, or maybe since I particularly have interest in, or I have some interest or hobby that I've been passionately following, and my interest was more in that. So that's why. So they could be different. If there's a genuine reason, first, bare minimum criteria, you've already met it, so that's fine. So that's not something so much to worry about. Second, uh, either it could be an interest or hobby that that you paid more attention to. If there's a genuine reason, you can talk about that as well. Third, it could be, let's say, 1 year and not consistently that being an average student, or else there are people who are not very good in academics, but if you have those discussions with them around any topic, the kind of perspective that they bring to the table, and as in you'll be surprised to see that. So yes, that's there as well. Depends on how you want to present.
Very aptly put forward, very aptly. Yes, if you've not done something, say, so I focused more on the other thing. That's about it. Instead of saying, sorry, sir, sorry, and then keeping it open for him to bring around and ask you anything on this world, is like saying that I know everything, I'm a god. No, you're not god. Even they accept it, that you don't know everything. And as the speech said, please talk about what you have done. The moment you talk about what you have done and what you want to be asked questions on, they will ask you questions on that. So panel is not wanting you to know everything. All that you have to do is guide them to what you know and let them ask questions there. But then don't mess up there. Get the answers in place. Read more about it. You have time. Okay. So now the next question. Everyone's preparing for MBA here, but why should we do an MBA? Jaspreet, yes.
So if you ask me why MBA, the key word or the key reason here is the kind of exposure that you get. Because see, after my BCom also, I could have gone and done a master's in commerce, again with some finance subjects. Why MBA for me? Because the kind of experience exposure that you get in MBA is unparalleled. You get to meet people from different walks of life, different educational backgrounds. Uh, so that peer learning that you have there while being along with those students, you can't have it anywhere else. And also particularly in MBA, you are taught in the first year, you're taught of multiple subjects around finance, around marketing, around operations, some around IT as well, so that you get an exposure, you get an experience to a plethora, I'll say, or a wide area of subjects. And then you could choose for yourself what is something that I like more, and I would like to make a career out of it. I would like to pursue it further, to have a specialization maybe. So in any of the other course, it'll be very specific, it'll be niche, you will be just reading on one particular, on around one subject. In an MBA, you will be able to get exposure to all of that. First, second, that peer learning that you get, because in any of the good campuses that you'd go, the kind of people that you'll meet, you can't have them if you, let's say, do some, for example, for myself, the other choice was pursuing an MCOM. So why MBA is for that learning, for that experience, for that exposure, definitely. And again, there's no harm in talking about your career aspirations as well, that how MBA can help you succeed further in your career.
So on that note, I would like to ask you how to answer questions like, where do you see yourself 3 years from now, 5 years from now? How do you answer those questions?
So definitely not to say something like just as a manager or a position just very similar to what you have now or something like that. In fact, my opinion here is 3 or 5 years down the line, just tell the other person skills you would have learned by then, experience that you think you could have gained by then. For example, 5 years from now, I am like 1.5 year into this organization. 5 years from now, I want to explore, let's say, I have already explored three different subdomains of finance. Now, for example, FP&A for me, 5 years down the line, I see myself that I have worked in that particular domain for 2-3 more years. I've gained that depth probably of that subject. And then career wise, somewhere in the middle management, I'm able to further own. So first talk about this, not just about a position, a designation that you want to achieve in those 5 years, but the skills, the learnings, the experience you want to gain in those 5 years, because that's why that is what they're there to offer you. 2 years of MBA and then 3 years of that further experience that you will gain because of something that you because of all that learnings that you have had in your MBA as well. So take it in that direction. Maybe that could be a good side to it. And then if you actually want to talk about a position or career wise, you there's, for example, you can name the kind of companies. For example, if you are interested in some sector, for example, if you're genuinely interested in, let's say, for finance and IB role or something like that, I see myself pursuing one of those kind of roles. For example, if I'm interested in FMCG sector, I see myself working in the FMCG industry with one of the good orgs or corporates there. So you can talk of those roles, those companies as well, if you are very clear in your approach. But trust me, normally we wouldn't see people to be that clear at that stage.
So, if I put it on a general perspective, Jaspreet, would you agree that this question is more so being asked to how oriented or how committed the person is towards achieving a particular goal, whatever the goal is? If you're not clear, if you're not even 60% clear on where do you want to be, if MBA just has to be is just a medium for you to get a job, that's about it. They'll be able to get you get this out of you. And secondly, there'll be hurdles faced by a person over the next 5 years. Definitely, life is full of hurdles. It's not that life does not have any hurdles. Pele, even if you land up at a good B school, there'll be hurdles again, right? But how committed a person is to working towards that goal. But yes, they do not even expect that exact pinpoint answer that this is what I have to achieve. Yes, these things keep changing, but they're just looking at your orientation and your commitment towards it. Am I right, Jaspreet?
Yes, exactly. Resilience does matter a lot.
Yes.
There will be hurdles, there'll be challenges, but how determined you are to tackle those is what matters. Or otherwise, not just career, you wouldn't be able to do well in your MBA as well, because trust me, it's not an easy journey there too. So yes, that does matter.
But that's how we grow. Yes,
Yes.
that's what you'll second, that whenever we face difficulties and whenever we overcome them, then that's our strength. That's how we grow. We've all grown like this. I've grown like this over the last 15 years of my work experience post my MBA. Okay, next. So what you covered, I would like to ask another question. What kind of specializations should one opt for? Finance, marketing? Does it matter what I've studied? What should I focus on? What should I take up? What should I choose if I've asked a question like that in the interview?
So normally, I believe in an interview, they wouldn't expect you to be very clear of what specialization you want to pursue. So how in an MBA, it's a 2-year course. In the first year, that is the basic ideology behind that. In first year, they'll make you read on all those subjects, on all the basics of be it marketing, finance, IT, ops, HR, everything. And then in the second year, after having read all of those, you could make a wise choice for yourself. Okay, this is the subject that interests me. So I think that is more of a question that would come into the play there. But yes, if you are asked in an interview that what specialization are you looking for? Again, if you have an educational background, for example, I said that, and I used to back it, then you should have a reason behind, rational behind it. For example, I used to say, my father is in the banking industry for last 10, 15 years. That's how my interest into this domain probably developed. And then that's why I did bachelor's in commerce. I went on to have a specialization in accounting as well. So for me, it was easier to convince them that, yes, I would want to pursue an MBA in finance majors. And I eventually ended up doing that. So if for your case you have your background that you can probably talk on, that could be a plus point. If not background, and it's, you could take the other side as well. You could be very open and say that I'm very open to explore all of those fields. To I'm in fact, I'll be curious, I'll be interested to know about all of those domains, and then decide for myself. That kind of can express that side of it, that you are not very rigid, that you are not the kind of person who stick to one thing, that I'll do this only or nothing else. You are very open to exploring any of those fields. That also can be good. If you want to go to the other side and stick to one, that also you can do, for example, and back it up with your background, or for example from something you have picked it up from your parents, or something you developed as an interest. For example, economics, for some people, they want to pursue, they have that background. So either ways, it's how you want to go about it.
How to address questions like, I have a gap year. So how do I duck under it? You tell me. Yes.
Again, for a gap year, have a reason, as in what did you do in the gap year. For example, it gap year, probably you wanted to take because you wanted to focus entirely on your CAT preparation. You didn't want to keep pursuing your education, your undergraduation, and then along with you wanted to have your full focus on that. That could be one. Probably you did some internship, or you were working somewhere. That could be another reason. You were supporting your father, your family in any of their business. That could be another reason. Or, yeah, as in, basically the point here is having a gap year isn't an issue, or isn't an issue in itself. It's what did you do in that gap year is what you want to tell to that other person, or communicate to the other person. Could be anything, and that is very personal to you, but at least talk on that.
So I like to add here, now that you have a gap year, so first of all, stop asking those negative questions and feeling miserable about yourself. There's nothing to feel miserable about yourself. The whole curriculum is based as if our studies are based as if we have to be regular, but it's not like that. Accept that it's a weakness. वो गलती हो गई, गलती क्या हो गई, गलती नहीं है यार, वो हो गया, अब 1 साल का है, that's okay. Till he's not asking you any particular question about it, you're not talking about it. But when they are asking you a question about it, at least have something around what you were doing in that 1 year, 6 months, whatever it was. Right? So next question, Jaspreet, now for you is, if I'm working, how do I convince that I want to now leave my job and come? Or for that matter, if I left my job 3 months, 6 months, but I think we've answered that question before this. Is it okay that, doing it after I'm working and I've been very successful in, let's say I'm a programmer. Now I want to do an MBA in finance. How do I tackle those kind of questions?
In fact, again, it's how you take that up. If someone asks you that you have been in this job, you've been very successful there, why do you want to quit and leave and now do MBA? In fact, portray it as that you're happy that you have worked there, you have gained a lot of experience, you have gained a lot of learnings from that, and that's what you bring to the table when you'll be doing your MBA. For example, if you're a fresher, you are fresh into this, you don't get to know. So my point here is simple. That's not something, it's how you take that question up. If you take that question up like that person is asking me, why did I quit, or am I a quitter, or I didn't stay there, I didn't like my job, now I'm coming to MBA, then there'll be a negative thought process that'll go in your head. Instead, take it on a positive note, that yes, I'm very happy that I did. In fact, you can talk about your experience there, that what all did you do and what all did you take it from there. And now that those are the skills, the soft skills that you could gain, the technicals that you could gain in your corporate experience, that will help you to perform maybe better in your MBA now.
Okay, so now, as we come towards the end of the session, there's some few more questions which have just come in. I'll like to just repeat those questions, talk about those questions, but I think we've answered them. Apart from one question which comes from Nitin Bansal, Jaspreet, which says that I applied for executive MBA from FMS. Can you please share some information about the extempore and PI? That's a question by a student.
For executive MBA specifically, I think the discussion would be more around your prior experience. And for extempore, there could be a wide range of topics. For example, in my case, it was an abstract topic. So it could be anything. There's nothing specific. Again, as we were just going through the type of question that you can have in an interview for an executive MBA, it's nothing different. It could be anything from any of those. In my case, it was specifically, I recall that it was an abstract topic for extempore. Focus more on the soft skills, as in that 1 minute, how you articulate, how you present, or at least try to bring 5-6 different points across in that 1 minute. It should not just be beating around the bush in just one thing. That maybe. And for interview, as I mentioned, that for executive MBA, it's expected to revolve more around your prior work experience. So again, just think through it, the roles and responsibilities that you had, and then if any achievements or the awards or recognition R&R that you have had there, and the learnings both on the technical and the soft skills side that you had from there. And especially the question would be, why now MBA again? As in, why do you think that you were in a job and now you'll do MBA, and you'll be able to do, as in generally the idea here is, people generally think that it'll be a lot better, I'll be in a job that's more rewarding or that pays me a lot more than what I had probably earlier. The interviews would trick on those though.
Yes, great. Thanks. So next question comes from Akshita. She says, I did not score well in 12th. I was concentrated. I like to answer that question. So, that's a weak statement. I did not score well in 12th. I was concentrated on competitive examinations. Can I state this as a reason, or should I cover up in any other way? Now, you're thinking bad about yourself, Akshita, right? And it's not, Akshita, most of us are. The way we've been brought up, the way we've been treated in our schools and colleges. You did not score well. I was concentrating. So I assume that you're writing here that, you got through a good college. If you got through a good college, hang on, you've done good for yourself. Even if you did not get through a good college, sir, my parents always wanted that I am an all-rounder. Textbooks are only a part of my overall education. This was inculcated in me from the very beginning. And that's what my parents always wanted to focus on. So even, even when I had my competitive examinations, I was reading newspapers, I was concentrating on other stuff as well. And that's how I was preparing to be a better human being. That's what my parents always wanted me to be. Right now, see it that way. And that's when you not got to a good college, you answer that. But then be ready for those questions if he's asking you on your other areas what you were doing. So over the next 15, 20 days, 1 month, just brush up, and overcome that is the better way. One more question, Jaspreet, though I would like to answer again because it's a very typical thing. This is not more on GDPI process. It's like it comes from one person, Himanshu. He says, how to become a CEO ASAP and start controlling the minds of our employees. No, that's not the reason. Okay, you say what Jaspreet, what if you want to add something, or should I? Whatever you say.
You can take the term, but that was an interesting one.
That's an interesting one. Yes,
that's an interesting one.
We're not doing MBA to control people, boss. That's not what we are doing MBA for. Remember, there's a goal. The team has to be aligned to achieve that goal. That's what we are working for. If you've ever seen post our MBA, when we get onto our corporate life, we don't even address many people as sir and ma'am. We call them by their first name. Many of my juniors call me as Deepak, right? Because we are all aligned. Would anyone go and call Virat Kohli sir? No. Virat is Virat. Virat is Virat Bhai. That's it. That they're looking up to him, that he is leading the way to. Everyone has problems, but he's showing the way, right? That's what exactly you have to do. That's not what you're doing MBA for. There are complex situations in the corporate life. You're trying to address that. There are targets which are to be met. You, as a team, you're working together to achieve that. And all that kind of stuff is happening. We are not controlling minds. I cannot control minds of, I at one time was leading a team of 200 people. I cannot control minds and think that I'm superior to them because I control their minds. No, leave this thought. The sooner you leave this thought, the better it would be for you.
And I would like to say, an MBA doesn't show you that you'll become a CEO. So exactly, yes, that shouldn't be the goal. It's not MBA that gives you that position of a CEO. It's you who have to work hard and get that position for yourself.
Okay, so Himanshu comes from a very, very interesting question. I have graduated from a degree. We'll keep this as the last question. I have graduated from a degree in which I did not want. So there's a little grammatical error. Hang on, I'll just put it right. Okay.
Yeah.
He's graduated. He's done something which he did not want to do in his degree, primarily because of the pressure from his parents and university professors. And what should he do now? Yes.
So if you genuinely think that you didn't want to pursue it and you have an interest, then again, you can talk of the interest that you have. For example, okay, I did a graduation, let's say in finance, but after having done that, now I realize that that is not the kind of field that I see myself in. In fact, I would like to explore marketing, let's say, as a career. I'm just thinking out loud. So if you say that you did something that you're not interested at, you should be aware of something that you actually are or genuinely are interested at. And again, similar approach that if you're interested in, let's say, not A and B, what is your plan or what is your goal now? Could MBA serve or could MBA fill up that gap now maybe for you? So your approach to that is what matters. So you can't just say that something wrong happened, something bad happened, and I couldn't do something about it and just crib or rant about it. The idea here is, okay, something happened, you couldn't control that, but now what? Or now what's your plan? Or does MBA fit into that plan? If yes, they'll be happy to offer you that. If not, then again, you're making a wrong choice for yourself.
Okay, Jaspreet, concluding comments from your side. That was the last question. And then we'll close it there. Yes.
So as I said, it was great having this discussion and answering those questions. All of them were purely based on my own experience, my learnings or observations. One thing that I noticed while answering all those questions is something that was there in all of them was approach. For example, how you tackle a question or how you take it up and how you can turn it into a positive thing rather than either feeling bad about yourself or not feeling confident enough or giving a negative tint to it. So how you take that question and how the approach that you have does matter. That is something that I could see in all of the answers that we were talking about. First, second, soft skills as important as the technicals. Third, if you're talking about something, the keywords or background or anything, having a strong know-how of that. And yes, again, an interview is definitely like a sales pitch. It's just that you're selling yourself, you're making a pitch about yourself. So how you present yourself is the key here.
So my friends, if you're looking for a good B school is also looking for good students, right? It's a handshake which happens. It's not a one-way process. They will give you umpteen opportunities on that day where the GDPI process is lined up for you. They will give you those opportunities to put your best foot across, put forward. They understand that you can go wrong, but they will like to give you another chance. So even if you go wrong, gather yourself again, try to get a good pitch, make a good pitch to them. So that's what it is. And stay positive. And if this session makes you wonder more about yourself, then I think it's been a good session. If all your questions got answered, I'm sure they could not have been, though they are limited questions. We don't have any more questions. I understand the psychology of students. They have so many questions inside. And if they want to answer that for themselves, very true. If this session was able to do this, you're on the path to success. Because there are more questions which you need to answer to yourself than what we answer to you, right? Still, anything, most welcome. I'll be more than happy to answer. Or we'll be more than happy to answer.
Yes, sure. Definitely.
Okay, Jaspreet, thanks so much. I think it's time as well. Thank you for joining in. Look forward to these brilliant minds getting into good B schools and then, in the next few years coming over and telling us their experiences and guiding the students further. That's the best way in which we at Hitbullseye enrich our students. Thank you so much.
Pleasure is all mine.